Hello, everybody. John Pollock and Wai Ting with you on a Friday afternoon following New Japan's A-Block final, their first of 3 straight nights at Sumo Hall. I am joined by the A-Block of this tandem, Wai Ting.
The A-Block of the tandem, okay. I wouldn't necessarily say that myself, but does that mean I'm ending today? Oh, no.
No, that means that you are maybe the favorite going into Sunday.
Okay. All right.
We can discuss.
Hey, this is a free show, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's free. Hi everyone. We've been doing these for a month. This is our 17th show.
It's been a bit of a morning routine for John and I, waking up in the morning, watching a bit of wrestling, maybe having some coffee, and then a lot of coffee, and then talking about it in the afternoon. So yeah, we've been doing a whole month of this, and we're pretty much towards the end. But I would say at the start of perhaps the most important weekend in the tournament, of course.
Yeah. So I do want to encourage anyone out there that if you do want to jump aboard the Post Wrestling Cafe, you not only get a chance to catch up on all the G1 shows this weekend, but we have a lot of cool stuff coming up over the next number of weeks post G1. We're going to have Ask Away next week. We're going to be continuing our Rocky series with Rocky 4, with the most iconic phrase ever uttered by a representative of the Soviet Union on film. And then we've got King of the Ring 95, and we have lots of stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming up over the next month, and maybe you never know what'll drop on the cafe.
Rewind to SmackDown live, Rewind to SmackDown taped even. So the season premiere taking place tonight, of course. So you have access to all of that, as well as the B-Block final show tomorrow, as well as the G1 final on Sunday. So still a bunch of bonus content, as well as access to the entire archive at postwrestlingcafe.com.
$6 gets you in the door, all of those shows, in addition to access to our entire archive with a strong 72 rewind-aways, including the Survivor Series 2002 that we have now dubbed Saliva Series.
Saliva Series. I love it. I really enjoyed that review. Like 2002 is an era I look back very fondly on, and this is a show I really enjoyed. So I know a lot of people are probably like, overwhelmed with a lot of stuff that's out there right now, and unfortunately things like Rewind Away, I feel like kind of get lost in the shuffle. But if you do have time, I do encourage you to go back and check that out. It was a show I was pretty proud of.
Yes. And now we get back to this rigorous schedule, but I know what everyone's thinking out there of all this content. When they think about me and Wai, the A and the B block, one of us you love, one of us you hate, but you can't live without us. Always.
I don't know about that. Is that what? Always? Is that the Saliva song?
I was trying. I was butchering the Saliva lyrics, which takes some ability to be able to do.
I only know the chorus, but that's cool. You know the rest of the song. I didn't know.
Well, those are the only words I know from that particular song.
Hey, at the end of all this, we will give out our top 10s, aren't we?
That's right. I have ranked every single match. I'm not going to do the Chris Jericho list of all the G1 matches, but I will go through my top 10. We'll get Wai's top 10. And then, you know what? We should just put it out there to everyone else, because then people could just respond saying, yep, exactly. I agree.
Nailed
this
it.
Exact order of matches.
It's almost a complete impossibility. I mean, I wonder how many people would even have the same top 3. So we'll see. But yeah, please respond with, if you don't have a top 10, at least maybe a top 5 in the comments for this podcast.
I want all disagreements sent to me, please. All of them. I want every last one. Oh my God. Somebody exposed himself. I'm up for some negative comments, so throw them our way.
Well, what good are ratings? What good are lists if not to encourage discussion and disagreement?
Yeah, so have everyone yell at each other. That's what the purpose of the internet is for. But we did not have any yelling, but we did have a symphony of English commentary on this particular show with Kevin Kelly, Rocky Romero, and Chris Charlton, who, I mean, have been doing these shows, but I would imagine for most, if you've been keeping up to it on a daily basis, not being able to catch much of the English commentary this year because they have been delayed. But today they did do live English commentary as they are expected to do all weekend.
Has it been the team of three for the English commentary, or has it just been Kevin
I can't
Kelly?
say if that's been on all of the shows. I have sampled very little, so I don't know if it's been a mixture of Kevin Kelly with rotation or if it's been the three at different points, but I'm assuming we're getting the three all weekend.
Well, for you and I who have to watch these shows, pretty close to them being live so that we can do these podcasts, I mean, I've been very underexposed to any of the English commentary throughout. And we should mention, the last time we really spoke about it, we commented on perhaps like the very lengthy delay between, the Japanese commentary and the shows being live to whoever the English commentators are putting them up there. I mean, in some cases, they'd be like delayed by, multiple days. But that seemed to increase, the length seemed to decrease as the time went along, and they got speedier with it, I'd noticed. But today, getting to enjoy it live, I preferred English commentary. Like, I had the option, of course, to watch Japanese, but if given the choice, I definitely wanted to sample the English commentary. And in particular, like, I've really missed this team of Rocky, Chris, and Kevin Kelly, who I haven't really heard together in quite some time. And what did you think overall of just having English and what they added?
They obviously add a lot of context, and I always loved like Chris's like diving into historical references to apply to like the modern scenarios that we're watching. It's not like make or break for me. Like, I'm fine with the Japanese commentary, but I'll say like I think that it was a real miss this year, the fact that they didn't have this all sorted out ahead of time, and the fact, today we had, I guess at the beginning you could hear like some minor audio problems on Chris's end. It was like overmodulated at times, but very minimal. I mean, it's not going to deter you from listening to the English commentary, but it was going to be more difficult this year than having everyone there in Japan. But I still feel that a solution should have been worked out to be able to have this option throughout the tournament. Like, that's where this G1, it's your peak month to bring on new subscribers, and I think having that English commentary, that is very beneficial for some of your new subscribers.
In terms of like the added costs involved with like doing something like this, I really can't imagine that it would be so much that New Japan would be like so unwilling to do it, because you're doing everything over the internet. And at most I would imagine it might require a couple extra techs, and I don't know. I'm kind of perplexed that they didn't decide to do it throughout the entire tournament, because I completely agree. I think with something like this, it's a chance to grab a lot more casuals, and without it, I would say like English commentary, especially for a tournament like this where so much is kind of told in the in-ring storytelling, if you're not watching the behind the scenes or backstage interviews or listening to podcasts, it can be rather inaccessible, I would say, to a new fan. Maybe even, for like viewers who just tune in occasionally to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Navigating some of it is already a bit daunting, and I think having English commentary makes a big difference. But I will say, like, there were times where it felt a little bit weird, because I'd kind of gotten used to like just listening to essentially ambient noise, with the Japanese commentary, and kind of creating my own interpretations of like what's been going on. And to have now suddenly like three voices like above that instinct I've kind of built up, in a way almost like made me less engaged, because like I was able to kind of relax and just like absorb what they were telling me, rather than perhaps like coming up with it, focusing and kind of coming up with some of these interpretations myself. So there are definitely like benefits and disadvantages to both experiences, and I would say, there's really no right or wrong option. I know there are plenty of English speaking fans who prefer Japanese commentary, but to have the option, I think, is important.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, based on the Jingu Stadium show and today, I mean, doing it live, it's not like there were any disasters. They didn't run into any tech problems. I mean, It was, it's good, at least for the last weekend, that they have this in place. So our Young Lion match, where we are now down to, figuring out the winner of this unofficial C block, is Yota Tsuji taking on Gabriel Kidd. And going into this, we had Tsuji with 12 points, Uemura with 11, and Gabriel Kidd with 9. So Tsuji immediately attacks, and he lands the splash off the ropes. He's going for repeated covers. He just wants to be in and out and end this thing. He is done with these guys. Tsuji wins the battle of vertical suplexes, hit the running senton, but it's caught with a roll-up from Kidd. Kidd then lands his drop kick and goes for the butterfly suplex. It's countered, and he yells, LA Dojo! And Tsuji says, fuck you, and spears him. Boston Crab, giant swing, back to the Boston Crab, cranks back. 6 minutes, 54 seconds. Gabriel Kidd taps out, and the announcers are kind of caught off guard that, oh, okay, that really takes the air out of tomorrow's match because this is wrapped up. Yota Tsuji is the winner. He's got 14 points, and the best Uemura can do is get to 13, while Kidd, all he can do is tie Uemura with a win tomorrow, with all of them having 12 matches at the end of this gauntlet.
It's certainly rather odd booking if you expect, this little kind of mini tournament to build up to an actual peak. The fact that, it just kind of ended like this kind of tells me that the booking didn't pay all that much attention to the point status of this unofficial C block. I don't exactly know how they were kind of like throwing out the different wins, but it certainly didn't lead itself to like any sort of climax,
Or at least off by a day. Yeah. It is what it is.
Even the match itself, like the finish was just like...
This wasn't one of the spectacular ones. Yeah, this was one of the shortest that they did. There was, they kind of positioned like, of these three, and based on, him getting the most wins, that Yota Tsuji is the most prepared to go forward. And maybe 2 years from now, he'll be interfering in a G1 match with a ridiculous name.
Oh, I think it's to be expected. What hair color should he have? Or what if he gets a haircut?
What if he gets a suit, cane, and a bowler hat, and he is Mr. Tsuji?
Oh, there could be worse ideas. That's for sure.
Oh, there have been worse ideas, but that one's pretty bad. Jeff Cobb, Yujiro is our first A-block match of the show. So Jeff Cobb is 4-4, looking to get double digits to finish off his G1. Yujiro, who has been pointless the entire tournament, is looking for 2 points. Just anything that can put him like a level above garbage. That's his motivation for this final night. They are breaking down all the different scenarios for tonight, and based on their tabulations here, Will Ospreay, I think they contacted 538 to do an analysis of this A block. Will Ospreay has a 5% chance to win the block, but part of the equation for him to win requires that Yujiro win this match against Jeff Cobb, because if we had a four-way tie, then it breaks down into the next tiebreaker, which is the records of the four that are tied. So it's very complex, and whenever you feel, wow, that's really complicated, that scenario is not happening. But it's fun to make your brain work to figure out all the potential outcomes.
And it was worth mentioning, just to kind of add a little bit of stake to this match, as well as, of course, what would happen with the Will Ospreay match later on too. So it's elements like these. It's like, the announcers mentioning like what's been going on with Jay White and Yujiro and Evil and the whole descent between the Bull Club, that I think like having that English commentary there is really important, because if you're not watching in the post-match interviews or listening to podcasts or reading, articles about it online, you'd probably be unaware of a lot of these things.
Vince, we've got this great idea for a tournament, okay? Let's break down the math for all of it.
Jeez.
What the fuck?
It's not happening. Are you kidding me?
Inverted DDT is delivered by Yujiro on the floor, so Yujiro's in control. At the beginning, it's pretty slow with him having the advantage. Cobb would come back with a belly-to-belly and then lifts him up for that spinning gut wrench, but the hand gets bitten by Yujiro. Yujiro is pulled out of the corner into a spin cycle. There's a standing moonsault. Tour of the Islands is blocked, and then Yujiro uses referee Kentasano as a shield and attacks Jeff Cobb using his walking stick that they bring up. Yujiro has not gone to the walking stick all tournament long, which, this This guy needed some assistance along the way. It's a little too late. He hits the Intercollege Slam, a Miami Shine, and then the Pimp Juice. And the Pimp Juice keeps Jeff Cobb down. 10 minutes, 32 seconds. Yujiro finally has a point at the end of this whole thing. In fact, he got 2 of them. And Jeff Cobb leaves with 8 points and a losing record at the end of this. But Will Ospreay technically still alive based on this result.
It was a moral victory for Yujiro, and I guess one that affected Will Ospreay later on. And I do wonder if that's why they booked it, like for Will Ospreay's sake, or if it was just to throw a bone to Yujiro. I personally think it would have been more valuable for Cobb to reach 10 points, because I think like a loss like this to Yujiro, the shittiest guy in the entire tournament, to me kind of took the edge off of Cobb's very significant wins over guys like Will Ospreay previously.
This always happens on the last day. It's like you have results like this where it's just to pacify one person in the tournament, and it's like one of your big guys has to just slip on a banana peel and lose. That's what this was. I didn't think there was any more drama for Okada Osprey with this Yujiro win. I'm with you. I thought that Cobb losing this, and in by heel standards, relatively clean fashion. Like he just lost to the Miami Shine and the Pimp Juice.
Ultimately, I mean, however much of it gets remembered will be dependent on like how much follow up they give to it. So in the end, it's like, it's whatever. Like nobody's really hurt, or like nobody really gains anything off of a match like this. But I also have to say, like, it was kind of hard for me to give a shit about this one, just because it wasn't particularly exciting or good. There wasn't really a whole lot at stake. Like the same Yujiro slow offense. Nothing really exciting from Cobb in this one either. So I just gave it medium and a sugar just to be nice, because I was ready to move on to the important stuff.
Yeah, I went medium with a milk to start off the day, because there was going to be a lot more to come. This was definitely the weakest match on the show. Shingo Takagi against Minoru Suzuki, a rematch from that great outing they had back in August. And both men with identical 3-5 records. So this one had no stakes attached to it other than it's the rematch between the two. And you do have Suzuki as the never openweight champion winning that title from Takagi.
And just for an undercard match, like, I'm happy to take this any day,
Oh, yeah. This was, for the last night of the tournament, this was one of the matches that, cool, you get this on the final day. So they come out of the gate immediately striking, and Suzuki attacks Takagi's right arm. And this guy did a masterful job selling this arm for the duration of the match. Suzuki is wrapping it around the middle rope. The man is just, he has the look of pure exhilaration at the pain he is inflicting on Shingo Takagi. Just the orgasmic look at the idea that this man won't be able to brush his teeth with this arm. You ever try brushing your teeth with like your non-dominant arm?
I've never ever tried that. I don't know why I ever would. But I imagine it would be quite the challenge and quite the messy ordeal.
Well, think about it. I've heard that.
You have?
I have tried it, because I was hearing about, if you use your dominant arm all the time, you can affect your gums just by applying too much pressure. And you
true.
actually sometimes should use your non-dominant arm. So I've tried it now, and it's a world of difference. Like, it just feels weird.
Oh yeah, I could imagine. I actually have that issue. Like, I have like a receding gum line because I've been using too much force, and it's only on that one side. So
electric toothbrush?
Yeah, I have one. I just don't really like it. Like, I can't really. Anyway, I should. You're right. I should. I got a dentist.
This was not the discussion I expected to have during Takagi and Suzuki, but it just came to me. Try it, seriously. It's okay. It's recommended. And if it doesn't work, then don't blame me. I'm not a dentist. I'm not Britt Baker. So then Suzuki goes to apply the rear naked choke, but the gotch gets countered with a Death Valley driver. Suzuki kicks away at the arm. He goes to the Fujiwara arm bar, with Chris Charlton noting Fujiwara's influence. Takagi stops another attempt at the gotch pile driver, and Suzuki will not go down. He summons his power, and Takagi then walks right into a slap. Then Takagi is able to get his wits about him, and he lands his own right shot that drops Suzuki out of nowhere, and just like that, hits Last of the Dragon, and he wins the match in 12 and a half minutes, and Suzuki literally gets the last laugh with the maniacal smile on his face as he leaves. He holds the Never title by his goddamn teeth, which I, as a non-dentist, I can recommend do not do that. Just fantastic. This was, I'm talking about Suzuki. I don't think their match approached the level of the Jingu Stadium one, but it was still to me a solid, large, one milk, one sugar outing from these two. And a tease of maybe they go and revisit this one as early as November for a Never rematch.
I would think so. I mean, that seems to make sense.
He was very much alluding and pointing to the title, to Takagi, like they were putting a big spotlight on the championship, which Suzuki has not done with all of his opponents.
Yeah. I went large, one cream, one sugar, one sleeve. It was just kind of below XL territory. Probably would have reached it had it not been for perhaps the rather kind of abrupt and anticlimactic finish here with just not much of a build-up to that Last of the Dragon. In fact, I would say maybe the closing stretch somehow lost actually a bit of energy rather than built. But overall, like, I really enjoyed the opening portions of this match. Both men have had really strong G1s. And with Shingo, I think it's almost expected at this point. I would say it is for Suzuki as well. But again, like, at his age, like, being talked about, in my opinion at least, as one of the stand-up performers of this entire tournament, amongst, like, one of the most competitive blocks that I think we've seen in a long time. Like, it's definitely that much more impressive of a feat. To me, like, he might not be the MVP of this G1, but he's still maybe my personal favorite to watch. Just in terms of technique, in terms of intensity, and in terms of, like, that very kind of, like, unique, you know, like, anime villain charisma is just... I'm astounded at how he looked in this tournament.
I think he comes out of the G1, and I'm not saying he's the favorite to win it, but he at least has a Wrestler of the Year campaign behind him this year.
Yeah.
And, he'll be in that conversation. Not saying he's going to win it, but I think come the end of the year, when you process all he's done in the last 12 months, this has been an extraordinary year for Minoru Suzuki, and that's amazing.
Yeah, how old is he right now?
53 off the top of my head.
That's incredible. Wow.
Like, that's for a guy that, was not even 52 years old, so off by a year. So
spring chicken then. Yeah,
I mean, Jesus, what were we giving all these accolades for? What 52-year-old could not do this month-long G1? Very good match from the two. But I would say below greatness of the G1. Then we go to, I would say, the first real big match of the day, and that is Kazuchika Okada and Will Ospreay with direct impact on the block point standings and who would be advancing to Sunday. So Okada has 12 points, Will Ospreay with 10 points. It's must-win time for either to stay alive. Will Ospreay came out, and he did have a dedication for Ryan Smile written on his wrist tape, and the announcers did bring attention to this coming off his passing earlier this week. It's an insane start by Ospreay, going for the space-flying tiger drop instantly, hitting it, followed by the pip-pip cheerio, and then goes for the Stormbreaker, which Okada stops. Then Ospreay tries for the Os Cutter, and it's caught with the money clip, and then turns into a draping DDT delivered to Ospreay. This is all in 2 minutes.
It's, I think, what you might expect out of the gate for a pairing of these two who have established, like, great chemistry. And I think for Will Ospreay's, like, storyline of wanting to, like, really prove himself against the big brother, it made sense.
Ospreay drop kicks Okada off the turnbuckle to the floor. And Chris brings up that Will Ospreay's cockiness, very reminiscent of Kenny Omega.
Yeah. Pointing out, like, perhaps the idea that Ospreay might be studying the Omega Okada matches to give him an edge here.
Not saying, like, it means anything, but it was just interesting to see, like, his name used here, and this being, we saw Jeff Cobb use, like, Kreutz Wrath the other day. Like, we had two very clear Kenny Omega references, one direct here.
What are you saying?
I'm not saying anything. In fact, I don't believe, like, the English commentary is... I think they're really just out there, and I don't, like, read into things like that, especially on the English commentary side, but interesting nonetheless that it was brought up. Osprey does a somersault dive over the corner, which looked amazing. And then he pointed to the sky for Ryan's smile. Again, brought up. This was a pretty spectacular dive.
Very much so, yeah.
Very fast sequence here. There's a standing shooting star, but Okada gets the knees up, and then Okada goes for his drop kick and gets caught in midair with a sit-out powerbomb. That was amazing. Then the hidden blade gets ducked, and Okada holds on to the wrist. The Stormbreaker gets countered with a short arm Rainmaker, and both men are on their backs with Okada still clinging to the wrist of Osprey. And he hits him with the tombstone, applies the money clip. Will gets out, and you hear him saying, "I am just as good." And Will gets out, and with that, eats a shotgun drop kick. There's a spinning Rainmaker attempt that's countered with a one-man standing Spanish fly by Osprey, Poison Rana, and then he hits the Oscutter and doesn't let go. He holds on to the neck, and he's going for the Stormbreaker. Again, Okada goes to the money clip. It's another series of counters, spinning Rainmaker, and then once again he reapplies the money clip when all of a sudden B. Priestley appears ringside rooting on Osprey. Okada hits another tombstone, applies the money clip for the 5,000th time in the match, and this time B directly gets into the ring, distracting referee Marty Asami, and that provides the distraction for the returning great Okarn. Tomoyuki Oka is back and attacks Okada with a claw into a chokeslam with his taped up right hand, and provides the opening for Osprey to hit the Stormbreaker and pin his Chaos leader in 17 minutes, 4 seconds. And afterward, Osprey and Oka, they exchange looks, and Osprey proceeds to lay out Okada with the hidden blade and tells Okada, "Fuck you. You've been holding me back it's been a long time coming." And Okada has to be helped back. So a lot happened here. But Wei, your thoughts first of all on the match, including the finish.
I thought the match itself was fantastic, as you would expect from these two. Osprey's really spectacular offense is a really nice contrast to Okada's pretty slow pacing typically at the start of his matches. And then once they really got into it, you had some very intense striking exchanges. I thought this, the story and sense of this being little brother trying to prove himself to big brother was really strong in the match. Osprey screaming, "I'm just as good," I think really, hit that note hard. And I also appreciated Osprey's lack of overselling this time around. Very clever, breathtaking, well executed counter sequences to each other's moves. People are going to perhaps be upset at the lack of clean finish at the end here, but listen, some matches are done to grab star ratings. Others are done to tell stories and introduce characters, and they had the best possible match they could have in the time they were given. But ultimately, the purpose of this match was done for story, introducing B. Priestley, reintroducing Tomoyuki Oka, and of course solidifying Will Ospreay's complete heel turn that he's been building up to this entire tournament. As far as the intent there goes, I thought this was successful. I thought it was clever how you created a scenario that allowed Osprey to play babyface against Okada in this match. It kind of made you wonder, has the heel character he's been trying to build this entire time, was it just a phase? And that by the end of this match, would he just kind of embrace Okada to be the will of old? And it's a harmonious chaos, kind of a brotherly rivalry type of thing. But they went the other direction, and instead it was made for this pretty full on unexpected heel turn. And I thought all that was successful. If I do have criticism about that, I think what's valid is that New Japan seems to really book their heel interferences in about as the least creative way possible. The actions of these heels are about as straightforward as can be. They're usually just "Hey referee, look at me." And then the other dude just is allowed to do anything he wants,
there was a brutal one in the main event.
Oh,
yeah.
So,
and it's also just the quantity of them that I think if you know that this is going to be, this was the biggest angle of the G1 that we've seen so far, that I think that having such a reliance on this with so many different characters in this G1 that there is going to be that natural kind of reaction that you had, as opposed to, I'm not saying a clean slate of finishes throughout this G1, but I think there was such an abundance of them that, yes, a guy just coming in and doing just the stereotypical attack lead to the finish, it is going to have some of that, but this is serving like a greater story for Osprey. I didn't really have so much an issue with, the utilization here, how you got to the finish. It builds to something, but I do question if you could have, like, it was one angle shot on top of the other. Like, to me, it's like you almost teased that like Will was like surprised by Oka's reveal here, and then to do the layout of Okada on top of it. It almost made the Great Okan's return already secondary by the end, because it's Will's turn on Okada that is the takeaway here.
Don't you feel like it's all wrapped up in the same thing, though? The fact that it was Osprey fully turning heel, initially, I guess, with the introduction of the two new characters in Okada and B. Priestley, but then really just kind of like, I don't know, solidifying it. I
guess my question would be, was Oka necessary then for this?
To help him get the win, yeah. And then, I mean, the assumption is that he's creating a new stable out of everything. So
yeah. So this officially eliminates Okada, and Osprey was already out of it based on the earlier result. So we are down to Kota Ibushi or Jay White. One of them will be advancing. All Jay White has to do is win his final match, and he advances to the final. Taichi versus Kota Ibushi. Ibushi with 12 points and Taichi with 8. They start off where they are having this long stare from their respective corners, and then they started the leg kicks. Neither is registering these kicks, and then they would escalate in intensity, and they're starting to reflect the impact. They take a pause. They'd resume the leg kick battle. Then we get some running boots back and forth. Both men go down. Then we move on to the chest, and they would kick the hell out of one another there. And this is just nuts. They both end up collapsing from these kicks. So Taichi brutalizes him with several more. Then they trade head kicks and both go down. They're limping. They're still throwing leg kicks. Taichi tears off the pants and the intensity increases from both. And then they slow down and it's like they're gassed from throwing all of these kicks. There's one final kick that drops Taichi. Ibushi screams, goes for the Kamigoye, but before he can hit it, he gets swept by the leg. Then they resume their leg kicks on the feet. Chris Charlton is comparing this to the chop battle at the Tokyo Dome between Kenta Kobashi and Kensuke Sasaki 15 years ago. Ibushi then blocks, hits a giant leg kick, fires up with a head kick, and then hits the match-ending Kamigoye in 17 minutes and 13 seconds. I thought this was like a total spectacle that I really liked. I thought I'm looking for, especially late in the G1, breaking patterns and matches that carve out their own identity. This one, I thought, got a 10 in that regard. It might not be everyone's favorite match, but I enjoyed the hell out of this.
I completely agree with you, John. I will, while ranking all the matches, like for this particular podcast, I have to say it was extremely difficult for me to remember like most of them by heart. Like most of these combinations, I'm like, oh, that was good, but this one, I'm sure it was good, but I can't really remember what exactly happened. This is a match I'll probably remember for years to come. Like 5 years from now, you can probably ask me, you remember that like kicking match with Ibushi and Taichi in the G1? And I'll absolutely say yes. You pointed it out, like one of the big issues facing like the G1 towards the end is just the sameness of style of every match. Like heel or babyface, like striker or high flyer, everybody kind of has their template. And by the end of like these 90 matches, it's really difficult not to feel repetitive. So a match like this, I thought was, number one, really risky to attempt. And I really respect them taking the risk because like it paid off here. Like it was a match that was highly engrossing. Part of the reason I think is because like we talk about how the Young Lion matches are like, they're so interesting to watch because they're kind of like, they're artists that are forced to work with like a very limited palette. And like, they're like musicians who can like only use 3 chords. in this match, like, these guys had to write a song with only one note. And it just really highlighted both men's ability to sell, to showcase fire, to showcase charisma. I was so impressed with both Ibushi and Taichi in this one. So I went really close to like full marks for this. Maybe not just like, for like, I don't know, for any conventional reason, but mainly because I will remember this match out of the entire tournament more so than some of my other ones that I think I would have considered favorites. So I went XL, one cream, one sugar, and one sleeve.
I went XL, one milk, one sugar. I love this match. I thought it was the match of the show. And you can look at the Osaka match last week that Taichi was involved in with Will Ospreay that a lot of people liked, but I thought this was much better. And I would make the argument, like, when I think of Taichi, this is probably the best match I've ever seen Taichi in.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
I think, to your point, I think people will remember this match. It's going to be the leg kick match that they did for 17 minutes and set themselves apart. Like, I think this will certainly be, and serves a story too, in that when we get to the block winner, how it's going to affect Kodobushi on Sunday.
Completely, yeah. Chris Charlton brought that up, whether or not it was like wise strategy for Kota Ibushi to engage in a type of match like this, knowing that he might have to wrestle again on the Sunday. I would be extremely disappointed if he didn't sell like the leg, as an injury coming in.
And correction from earlier. So Osprey was alive prior to this match. It's this result that officially eliminates Osprey. So Kodobushi is alive, and it's contingent, though, on Jay White either losing or going to a draw with Ishii in the main event. Jay White, if he gets this win, he advances. So that is our final match of the night, with Jay White at 12 points and Ishii with 6, looking for 8 points to finish off a hell of a G1 for Ishii. White is mocking him early on. He's slapping his head, asking, is anyone in there? They fought on the floor. Ishii gets run into the guardrail, and it's White with a DDT as Ishii favors his neck. But then White would shift focus to the taped up right knee, and this became his attack, his target for the entire match. Charlton conveyed this story of when Ishii was coming up, and he would have to take a 5-hour subway ride with Tenryu, and he would stand for the entire ride because Tenryu was his superior, and he was not worthy of sitting on the subway. This is a man with incredible internal strength.
Standing on the subway, yeah. You always give your seat up to the seniors. That's what I've always been taught on the subway. So how did Chris Charlton get that information? Or sorry, was that Rocky?
No, it was Chris Charlton who shared the story.
I wonder how he got that story. Wow.
Tomohiro Ishii should have gone on Survivor. That challenge where you just got to stand and outlast everybody. This guy would 5 hours. No one's touching that.
That's quite the endurance challenge. Yeah.
Ishii stops the attack on his knee with a German into the corner, and then Geto holds on to Jay to avoid a deadlift from the apron, and this leads to Jay with a dragon screw through the ropes. Ishii would rebound, but as he went for the enziguri, Jay goes right back to the knee. Of course, he's always got the counters, and it's focusing all on the knee. He removes the knee wrap and then applies the TTO, the Tanahashi tap out, but Chris says that it's not going to be the Ishii tap out. It would have to be the IPO, because the only way is for Ishii to pass out. And what it ended up being was the IRB, because we got a rope break.
Yeah. Maybe that one not as marketable.
Jay hit a Kiwi Crusher, but then the Blade Runner is blocked with Ishii hitting a Dragon Screw. And then he lifts up Jay for his own Kiwi Crusher, but drops him onto the injured knee, which certainly you would question Ishii's logic in that particular maneuver. So now it's Ishii attacking Jay White's knee. He uses a knee bar, and then White grabs Red Shoes as Geto enters, allowing Ishii to let go of the submission to focus on Geto. White then shoves Ishii into Red Shoes, so Red Shoes goes down. Ishii takes out Geto, and White stops a brainbuster, and White gets shoved into Geto. Then there's a low blow by Jay White, and they're zoomed in on him. And you're asking, where the fuck is Red Shoes? And they explain Geto had grabbed his foot, and Red Shoes has turned his back and missed this low blow. This was just overkill at this point. Ishii takes a pair of sleeper suplexes. Blade Runner and Brainbusters get countered. White then turns it into an inverted DDT coming down. It didn't look great. And then Ishii attacks Geto, who re-enters for the 5 millionth time. Ishii fires up, finally hits Jay White with the Brainbuster, and he wins in 24 minutes and 36 seconds. I would classify this was a tier 2 Ishii match in the G1. This was not among his classics that he's had.
I thought his selling was absolutely incredible. Like, not just him selling the offense of Jay White, but him also selling his knee anytime he executed his own offense on that injured knee towards the end. It was, to me, like, worth watching for that alone. And the rest of it, you know, really depends on your tolerance of all the Bullet Club cheating stuff. And even for me, somebody who's, you know, got pretty high tolerance for all that stuff, yeah, it was definitely wearing thin with how, I think, lazy it was. Like, it's not just the fact that he cheated, but like the fact that there's no cleverness in much of the cheating at all, and just like the referees just has to look so bad. So that definitely like took it down a big notch. But I mean, I think we have elevated stakes here, especially like at the end of the G1, that to me makes up for a lot of it. So I found myself like pretty thoroughly engaged. And I was definitely surprised by the finish.
I still went XL on this. I still thought it was like a really strong match, but it would not be in my upper tier of G1 matches. And I would put it as number 3 of the day behind Okada, Osprey, and Ibushi and Taichi. But it confirms Jay White is out and Kota Ibushi advances to the finals on Sunday.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, to me, like, I was really surprised by this because I thought for sure Jay White was probably going to take it just for that final post-match celebration. The fact that they had Ibushi essentially kind of like backdoor his way into it without even a closing address from anybody on the show, to me was like rather surprising. And I actually really like it. Like, it's a finish that allows you to, you know, make future G1s that much more unpredictable. Like, you can't necessarily just look at a card and say, hey, this person's very likely to win. So I like the result, you know? Yeah, I went XL1 cream.
Ishii just dumped like the water and ice all over him and just limped to the back. Like, my job is done, and he left. Geto is furious. Jay White is looking super upset, and he gets assisted to the back by Geto. And then backstage, Jay White insists he can stand despite the injury, so he throws the chairs away. He said, I am King Switch. I sold out Madison Square Garden by myself, not the A Block winner. And he thinks that this is an organized plan against him. And he says, good luck if evil can do something that I could not, but watch out for those refs. And he told everyone, remember who I am. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel we're getting some big angle with Jay White, if not on Sunday, in the near future. Like, they have been certainly hinting at like this infighting with the Bullet Club. I can see Jay White having some presence on Sunday's show in some form or fashion with some kind of angle.
It's been one of the long-running themes across the G1, and in fact, like, maybe the only storyline that's taken place across both blocks together. So for it to culminate either Saturday or Sunday, perhaps more likely on Sunday, I think would make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, Bullet Club infighting is something that is kind of, I don't know, expected at this point. And with two leaders, two alpha males, and Jay White and Evil, like, something's definitely bound to come to a head. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see, like, you know, what further follow-up we might have with Will Ospreay on Sunday as well.
So the final standings in the A block, Kota wins the block with 14 points. Osprey, White, and Okada finish with 12. Taichi, Jeff Cobb, Tomohiro Ishii, Shingo Takagi with 8. Minoru Suzuki, 6. And Yujiro Takahashi, 2 points. Right in the basement. Looking ahead to the B block final on Saturday, it's a 4 a.m. Eastern start from Sumo Hall. It's Yuya Uemura against Gabriel Kidd. So if Kidd wins, he will tie Uemura. So at worst, Uemura ties for second. Yoshihashi versus Toru Yano. Hiroki Goto versus Juice Robinson. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Zack Sabre Jr. Kenta versus Tetsuya Naito. And Sonata versus Evil. So the big three are Evil, Naito, and Sonata, although it's been explained that there is, much like Osprey, a double tiebreaker scenario where Zack Sabre Jr. could actually end up advancing, but it's also one of those hanging by a thread scenarios where a lot would have to happen.
Is that right? Okay, so he could still have a chance to advance beyond...
Because if it came down to all four of them were tied at the end of tomorrow, which would require Zack to win, Naito to lose, and Sonata to win, then among those four, I guess it works out because Zack has a win over Sonata and Evil. So in that way, I'd have to look at it. But yeah, there is technically a way Zack
Does he have a win over Sonata?
Let me double check here. He's got the win against... Sorry, he beat Evil, but he lost to Sonata, and he lost to Naito. It was I would have to look at the exact way, but
okay,
it seems to be Sabre may have a way to advance.
It's probably not happening either way.
It's not happening. No. Anyway, the big ones here. If Evil wins, he advances. All he has to do is beat Sonata, and he advances with 14 points. If Evil and Sonata went to a draw and Naito loses or draws with Kenta, then Evil advances. For Naito to win, he needs to beat Kenta and Sonata needs to beat Evil, or Naito beats Kenta and Sonata and Evil go to a draw. For Sonata to win, Sonata beats Evil and Naito loses to Kenta, which is very possible. That was my prediction the other day, so I'm sticking with it that Sonata is going to end up winning this block. But I would say I could also see a Naito Ibushi final as well, but I'm leaning Sonata.
A Naito Ibushi final, yeah. Evil versus Ibushi, is that possible?
I don't see it happening. I don't see Evil winning the block.
I think I'm going to stick with Sonata as well.
Well, you should. You have your points attached to this, so vote with your heart here. So that is the B block. Do we want to go to our updated standings, Way?
Yes, we should. Yeah, of course. Only one show left in the G1 contest. Before we might, I guess, if we rely on tiebreakers, we'll have to deal with the results from Sunday as well. But if we don't, it might all come down to tomorrow. But as far as today's results go, I would say a couple upsets on today's show. But we start off from the bottom of the card, or at least what was originally listed as the card, as 70% of you accurately predicted that Shingo Takagi would beat Minor Suzuki. 79% of you accurately predicted that Kota Ibushi would beat Taichi. Only 24% of you predicted that Yujiro would beat Jeff Cobb. So that is by far the biggest upset of the day. And 42% of you predicted that Will Ospreay would beat Kazuchika Okada, which, despite it being, I would say, an upset, I think in story, many people predicted that Ospreay would beat him on this night. And then 37% of you predicted that Tomohiro Ishii would beat Jay White. So not many people with perfect cards in this one. So a lot of people may be coming up from behind on the second last day. And among them, 5 out of 5, Chris Alexander, Jesse Montreal, congratulations to Jesse, Kishin, Mondo Curry, Tom G, Cookie, Jose Esquire, Matt, and the Great Griffin. And we'll see if that changes the overall standings. 63 points at the very top, all by him or herself, is Sasira, S.A. sitting up top at 63. But right behind Sasira is a three-way tie for second place between Aiden MC, C. Araujo, and MC Squared. Right behind them, in a four-way tie for third, is Bethany, Joshua M. Wallace, Timothy Lee, and Tom G, sitting at 61 points. So One card to go. I imagine it's probably still quite open between those several people. So we shall see what happens. In the C block standings, starting from the bottom here, we have a tie between Vivian Murray and Randobot 2000, sitting at 45 points each. While I think they are technically eliminated from winning the block, I really still am hoping for Vivian to beat Randobot. Let's get Randobot at the very bottom, everybody. I think that would be quite the storyline here. Above them is Benno, sitting at 48 points. We have WH Park above them, sitting at 50 points. And then we have a 4-way tie for second place. Wow. Between Wai Ting, I got a 4 out of 5 today, Mark Buckledy, Davey Portman, and Brad the Archivist, who has been leading this thing pretty much the entire time, but today only had a 1 out of 5 card. So that means we have a brand new leader with 1 card left, and that is Mike Murray, who also did 4 out of 5 today. He sits at 52 points. So, wow, dramatic, tight race at the top right now.
Damn. Wow, that's incredible. The most heated race this entire season. It's our C block.
Absolutely, yeah. So again, thank you to Chris Angler for tabulating all these all week. He will actually be joining us on the Sunday show to announce the full winner if we do have one. Yeah, we should have one by then. So yeah, tune in for that.
Do we have a formula to go into any tiebreaker scenario?
Well, you know what? Chris actually, like, at least for this post wrestling C block, he actually lined out scenarios of everybody's chances going in. So you can find the thread, and he'll the man is just a wizard. So he actually lined out like who is more likely to win. So you can find that in the forum.
Okay, I'm doing corrections on the fly here. So the Saber scenario, I think, was like incorrectly done because it was under the impression he had beaten Sonata, but it was actually Sonata that beat Saber. So yeah, I don't think there's a scenario Zach can win this, even if there was some tiebreaker tomorrow. So it's down to the 3 in the B block.
Okay, cool.
So there you go. We'll be back on Saturday.
Hey, our top 10.
Our top 10 matches. I was just going to say we'll be back tomorrow, but first, it's our top 10 matches. Why don't I go first, Way, and then you can go through your top 10, okay?
Sure.
We can. Well, I'll start at 10 and go up in ascending order. So number 10 was Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi from Day 5 on September 27th. Number 9 was the match we just saw a few days ago in the B block, Sonata defeating Hiroshi Tanahashi on October 14th. Number 8 was all the way back on Day 2, September 20th, Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. Number 7, Will Ospreay versus Tomohiro Ishii from Day 3 on September 23rd. Then number 6, Kota Ibushi versus Taichi from today. It cracked my top 10. It was nearly in my top 5. Number 5 was Kazuchika Okada against Shingo Takagi. I really love that match from October the 10th. Number 4, Minoru Suzuki versus Tomohiro Ishii from the very first night on September 19th. Number 3, Shingo Takagi versus Kota Ibushi from October the 7th. Number 2, Kota Ibushi versus Minoru Suzuki from October the 10th. And my number 1 match of the G1, Kota Ibushi versus Tomohiro Ishii from September 27th. So while I would have to look at all my rankings here, if I'm just going by my top 10, it's a hell of a... Like, I've got Kota Ibushi in my top 3 matches.
Yeah, I know. It's, it's a question of like whether or not you value like those amazing like big performances or if you value consistency.
That's what I'm saying. I think if I looked at like my top 20, like Ishii, if I included my top 15, then there's 3 more Ishii matches.
Yeah. So, well, maybe the difference maker will be like, do you include the final match?
Yeah, I think you include the finals.
I mean, it's sort of an extra advantage, right, that the finalist has because he has one more match to prove himself. But yeah, I feel like Ibushi has like, an XL plus match on Sunday. Would he clinch your MVP status?
He might. I'd have to look at it. But I would say going into this these final 2 shows, yeah, it's Ishii and Ibushi. Maybe Ishii's going to have like the world's greatest 6-man tag on Sunday.
See, I don't know if that counts.
Because it's a non-tournament match? Yeah, that might be out of
6-man, but... Okay, my top 10 from the bottom, I've got And let me just kind of preface this by saying, like, at this point, it's like, take your pick of, like, you know, especially when it comes to like 5 to 10, like, any of these can be interchangeable. I barely honestly remember some of these by the end. So it's just like almost a random assortment. They're all good matches. If you want to seek them out, go ahead. Number 10, Will Ospreay versus Tomohiro Ishii from day number 3. Number 9, Kazuchika Okada versus Tomohiro Ishii from day 15. At number 8, Shingo Takagi versus Will Ospreay from day 5. Number 7, Shingo Takagi versus Kazuchika Okada from day 13. Number 6, Kota Ibushi versus Shingo Takagi from day 11. Actually, Shingo making a lot of appearances here too. Number 5, Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroshi Tanahashi from day number 2. That was the near time limit draw. At number 4, I have Minor Suzuki versus Tomohiro Ishii all the way from day number 1. That one was absolutely stellar, just for like a great stiff striking, you know, war of attrition type of match. At number 3, I have your number 1, John, Tomohiro Ishii versus Kota Ibushi from day number 5. You know, for much of the tournament, sort of my leading candidate for favorite match. At number 2, from today, Kota Ibushi versus Taichi, the kicking match. Again, it's a match that I'll remember for a long time to come. And while it might not be like at sort of like the pinnacle of like emotion or drama, like, it's a match I really respected both participants for executing so well. So that match I highly recommend. At number 1, I have Kota Ibushi versus Minor Suzuki from day number 13 as my favorite match of this G1. Just you know, an excellent display of Minoru Suzuki and everything that he does so well, and great selling from Kota Ibushi, and just a wonderful combination of like two of my favorites currently. So yeah, just a great list of matches for you to check out.
Yeah, and we encourage anyone out there to post your top 10, whether it be on Twitter or on the forum in any of these threads. We'd love to hear other people's thoughts on the top matches of the tournament and tournament MVP as well, that I'm sure it's a wide open discussion with 2 more days to go. So Wai and I are back late tonight with Rewind to SmackDown. We'll be going live at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time for all members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. You can tune in right after SmackDown. We'll have a rundown of that show, go through today's news, and we will open up the phone lines. Then we've got a Cafe show Saturday afternoon, recapping the B Block final, and then another Cafe show Sunday to wrap it all up with the final. So we hope you join us for all of those shows. A lot of great stuff coming up all weekend long.
Yeah, if you're listening to this on the free feed and you want to jump in for the final weekend, postwrestlingcafe.com, you have access to all the prior G1 shows, all of our shows from the beginning of time on the Post Wrestling Cafe, and it'll get you set right up for the weekend's finals.
All right, that's it for us. We'll chat with you in a few hours.